Well, with the losses of Alabama, with the loss for Clemson, with Tennessee taking a loss as well and falling off the pace in the SEC East, the TCU Horned Frogs are set for a move up. They moved up in the AP rankings, and they are likely to move up into the college football playoff rankings. But those same Horned Frogs, potentially one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the country, according to a lot of opinion polls and maybe even the committee, they find themselves as a touchdown underdog against the Texas Longhorns. So, as we continue with the Pun Further review, based on what we saw from a win against Texas Tech that included Quentin Johnston getting knocked out of the game, Max Duggan being able to rally the offense back with 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns that made the final result look a little bit nicer maybe than the game felt as it was playing out. Are the Horned Frogs in trouble at Texas? Do we think that this is the first of 2 TCU Texas games? What do we make of that big-time clash in Austin coming up this Saturday night?
I think TCU is in trouble. They're just, it's one of those teams where they flirt with disaster too much. And I think they should be ranked higher for what they've done. I think they've got an incredible resume that's up there with anybody in the country. But it just feels like these games that are one-possession games are going to catch up with them. And I think the loss of Quentin Johnston is going to be significant. But more importantly, Texas, and now I'll say this, if Texas doesn't stop giving Bijan Robinson the football, then if
Texas does
continue, yes, yeah. then TCU's got a chance. But if they don't, if Sark, quits trying to mess around with his great offensive mind, which is a great offensive mind, and just says, "Here you go, Bijan," I think Texas wins handily. But they haven't.
Do we think Johnston's not going to play?
Up in the air, right? Questionable.
Because there's a part of me, honestly, that wonders. He hurt his ankle early in that game. Maybe it was like he probably could have played through it, or this is again speculation on my part. Maybe it was an injury he could have played through, but they thought they wouldn't need him to get through the game, and they held him out with this game in mind.
I could see it. I think this is a really interesting matchup, though, in terms of strength v weakness. So TCU's pass D is a good bit better than its run D. Is Texas the best run team that TCU has faced, given that Kansas State didn't have the quarterbacks when they played them?
I mean, I think the 1-2 combination of Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson is one of the best 1-2 combos in the conference. So, like the fact that you've got a very effective ground game all around, I think that's probably a fair comment, even if Kansas State had Adrian Martinez in that game.
I am a little bit skeptical of Texas' pass defense. If TCU goes into Austin and wins this game, and power ratings wise, I agree they should be an underdog here. I do think Texas is probably a field goal better on a neutral, and you add 3 that gets you to 6. Maybe 7's a little rich, but who knows? Maybe they blow them out. Think about the pass offenses that Texas has faced so far this year. Bama, which looks a little bit worse every week throwing the football. Texas Tech, and that was with Donovan Smith, right? Not Tyler Show or Bram Morton. And Smith is the guy who's not a good thrower for them. West Virginia, who honestly, like, their pass game's okay. Oklahoma without Dylan Gabriel. Iowa State cannot throw the ball effectively. Oklahoma State, that was with with Sanders, and they threw the ball somewhat okay on them in a pretty windy day. And then this weekend, Kansas State, and Martinez can't throw the football at all. So there is some chance that if Johnston comes back, TCU is probably the best passing offense that this team has faced. And Texas has injuries in the secondary. What's his name broke his arm in that Oklahoma State game. I could see TCU throwing the football here well enough to win, but the Texas rushing attack plus Sark's play calling, I don't think it's wrong to think that TCU is a justifiable underdog. And this is kind of why, by the way, you see them as very low playoff odds, because they're going to be a dog to Texas. They're going to be an underdog at Baylor, by the way. So they're going to be dogs in 2 of their final 3 games.
I don't think they'll be underdogs to Baylor.
You think they're better than...
I think they're better than Baylor.
You think they're 4 points better than Baylor on a neutral in these power ratings?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Baylor's. I was going to get to it later when we get to upon further review, but I don't think Baylor's very good. As far as this game, I mean, it's funny because we talk about TCU's defense all season long about how it's the one thing that's keeping, it keeps it from being able to blow teams out. But like, if you look at success rate, it's been better this year than Texas. The difference is Texas has been much better in the red zone. So I think that when you look at this matchup, that's going to be what it is. If TCU, like, they need Quentin Johnston, because if he's healthy or if he's not playing, it's going to be much more difficult for them to score if they're in the red zone and not getting big explosive plays through the air without him, because that's where Texas kind of locks things down. They give up yards to let you move the ball, and then they play the red zone roulette, and they're very good at it, holding you to field goals or forcing turnovers. But overall, defensively, they're not that much better than the Horned Frogs. So honestly, when I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a touchdown, if Johnson is playing, I'm taking TCU. It's weird to me. Like, I understand power rating wise why Texas is favored by a touchdown in this game. But just watching these two teams play, I don't trust Texas as much as I trust TCU right now.
I agree. I think it's also difficult to figure out. So if you're making a power rating, you are bumping Texas a little bit for having Ewers back in. And then there's pretty good word that Ewers was hurt with his finger or hand got slammed in a door or something like that at Oklahoma State. Now, I think the wind might have affected him some, but some of those passes were so bad against Okie State that I kind of wonder if that kind of whispers, if those are true.
No wind at field level in T-Boone Pickens Stadium. The way
so you think it was just all injury causing him? Like I mean, he was missing guys by like 10 yards in some cases.
Right.
So, and he warmed up with the glove on, which he normally doesn't do. So I do think like that's a way to, because Tom, I agree. Like if you just look at just their performances this year, I think this number is inflated. But I think that's how they're getting to it, right? Also, the Johnston injury is big. Like that's an NFL player they have, top 10 on Feldman's freaks list and stuff. If they don't have him, this offense is not as scary.